Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and tonight this is probably going to be another short little stream. We are probably going to keep it to under 20 minutes or so, maybe 25. So yesterday we went live talking about Vlogmas and this month, and I posted in my Discord asking people if there were any questions or topics they wanted me to cover. And one of my patrons, O'Neill Flynn, had asked what games would I like to review on my channel. And that's a hard question for me to answer because there's a lot of games out there that I've never tried. So I figured I would tweak the question a little bit and answer what RPG games or systems I want to play or try. And there's a lot. There are a lot out there. I mean, heck, if you just go and look up the variety of tabletop RPGs, there's well over 1,000 RPGs out there. Hey, Bill, welcome to the chat, buddy. Hope you're doing well tonight. I'm in my squeaky chair tonight. It's a little more comfortable. I'm having lower back issues again this week. So that is why I'm not sitting in the gaming chair over there. That one's a little more stiff. This one has a little more cushion. Anyways, so if you hear the squeaking, please ignore it. So some of the game systems I've been wanting to try, and I mean, just this last year, I've heard of like is there a Ghostbusters RPG now? G.I. Joe, Power Rangers. There's a Dragon Prince one coming out. There's Altered Carbon, like just so many. Dune. The Fallout RPG, just a ton of games that have come out, a lot of IPs that I am interested in trying. A few of those are by Modifius, and they do the 2D20 system, which I've tried with Achtung Cthulhu, and that's a fun system. However, for me, I don't know if it's like my go-to, right? It's got some things that kind of, for me, are in the way of role-playing, like when you're talking about how many dice you want to add to the pool, because you can have up to like 5 and things like that. That takes me out of role play a little bit. I start thinking about mechanics more so than role play. And so, while again, I can have fun with that and have a good time, especially with a good, fun group, I don't know if that's my preferred style, my preferred system. But yeah, I like them. For instance, I have Star Trek Adventures. I do want to try that. That is one of the same type of games, 2D20 by Modifius. And Modifius makes amazing books. They're gorgeous. I'll be reviewing Dishonored soon. I will review Star Trek Adventures, Fallout RPG. I will review that once I've played it. So I've got a few of those I'm going to be checking out a little more in depth for sure. Now, in my bucket list of games I want to play, we played Dragon Age on the channel. I've played that a little bit. I do want to play Modern Age. I want to see how that system works with, more, guns and, more technology and more modern type of setting. I do want to play that and see how that goes. That, to me, I think would be really cool. I'm still looking for, again, I like Heroes Unlimited. Right now, that is probably my go-to superhero game. However, I want to try Mutants and Masterminds. I do have that coming in the mail. That Green Ronin is sending me a bunch of stuff. I have 2 orders coming in from them. One that they supplied me with, and one that I took advantage of their Black Friday deals. So I will be reviewing some of their stuff, including Mutants and Masterminds and Modern Age and things like that. But I do really want to try Mutants and Masterminds. I love like the Marvel movies, the TV shows. And I want to play a good superhero RPG. That's what I want to do. And again, Heroes Unlimited has worked fine for me for years. The downside to Heroes Unlimited is it's really time consuming to create characters. And sometimes finding players who want to play Heroes Unlimited can be tough. Now we have a group of 5 who are going to be playing that in an upcoming one-shot. We were supposed to play on Black Friday. That has been pushed out. I have not selected a date yet, but it's going to be on an upcoming Friday, probably closer to Christmas. Maybe just after Christmas, I'm not sure. So yeah, we will be playing that on the channel. other games I would like to try. Again, I've seen people mention Dune and things like that. Again, I think those are 2D20 games. Monty Cook has a brand new superhero game that just came out. I think it's like In the Sky or Sky's the Limit or something like that. It just came out. I saw it on Drive-Thru RPG the other day. I think I had seen someone mention it somewhere else. That is a game I would like to try. I've played Numenera one time as a player, and it's been about 5 or 6 years since I did it. I believe they've made changes to the Cypher system since then. I also, if I remember right, I don't think the person running the game actually rolls a lot of dice. I think it's all player focused when it comes to dice rolls. So I don't know if I would want to run that because I like rolling dice, but I'd have to look at it more and read it. I don't own any of the Monty Cook games other than No Thank You Evil. So I can't really comment on the system much, but I would like to try Numenera, Cypher system, especially this new superhero game for it, because I think that'd be fun. I would not mind, and I wouldn't mind playing an extended Pathfinder game, but not something that is infinite. Like, I would like to play a short campaign, maybe a 6-session campaign or a 12-session campaign, something shorter that I can just play in so I can get in and have some fun with it. I've never played Starfinder. I would love to try that. I have a couple of the books. I don't have the core book. I don't have the beginner box, but I do have some review copies of other books they've sent me, and I've went through them. I haven't read them like cover to cover or anything. They look cool. There's a lot of things in there that look interesting to me. But I can't, again, comment on if I like the system or not. I hear it's a cross between Pathfinder 1E and 2nd edition. So, I don't know exactly what that means, to be honest. I've watched videos on Starfinder before. I've watched reviews before. And, yeah, I don't have an opinion on that game. I would like to try it, though, so I could establish an opinion. So again, there's a ton of games out there I would love to try. If you guys have some that you're interested in, feel free to mention them in the comments or in the chat. Let's see, what else? God, like, again, the list is huge of what I want to try. I always see games that I'm like, ooh, I'd like to get that. A while back, Delta Green had my interest. I don't know much about that. But like, I kept seeing it on Amazon. I had some conversations with other people who wanted to try it as well. The Alien RPG sounds interesting. But again, I don't know a lot about the system. I just know that the movies are awesome. So, it just kind of piques my interest there. When it comes to games that don't I would like to try Onward. Onward's a board game, I believe? Or I believe they were making that into an RPG. So I would actually like to try that. That was a fun movie to watch, a little Disney movie. My kids enjoyed that. So I would like to try that one too. So yeah, the Dragon Prince, I think, uses Cortex system, which isn't that the same as Fudge? Where it's like the plus, minus, and then the blanks on the D6s. So I would like to try that. The Fantasy Flight Games Genesis system, I would like to try for something other than Star Wars. Playing it with Star Wars is great. My buddy is making his own system called, is it Savage Wasteland? Something like that. But it's based on that, uses different dice, different symbols, but the same kind of concept where things can cancel each other out. So I would really like to try that game personally as, well, not that game, but it makes me want to try Genesis. But I really liked what he was coming up with. I don't know how far he is with that. His Twitch channel is like Tabletop Nights or something like that. You can go check him out. He does mostly video game stuff over there. Occasionally he does RPG stuff as well. But yeah, so again, there's a ton of games I want to try. I've seen Morkborg. I've heard good things. I know nothing about that either, but I would probably be down to try that someday. As for Torchbearer, 5 Torches Deep, I don't know what LFG is. I don't know if I would care too much about those, but I would try them. I would try. See, that's the thing. I would try all sorts of games. I would love to just sit there with a bunch of people with pre-gens and just play a variety of games one day. Like maybe we should just do a stream one day that's like a 24-hour thing, and we just set up a bunch of games with a bunch of different people, and we just play all sorts of different games. Oh, Index Card RPG, yes. So they've also got he's got the Viking Death Squad now that I think is also by Modiphius now. So he's got his new Index Card RPG, the Master Edition, which I think is like everything he's done for Index Card RPG in one thick book. Nice hardcover too. And he's got that Viking Death Squad thing, which is like a Space Marine Viking game. I could be way off on this. I have no idea. But it's Vikings. I know that. It's like Viking culture. But I feel like there was like tech based. I could be wrong. If you know, correct me, please. Those I have never played Index Card RPG, but I would like to try that as well. I'm a big fan of Runehammer. He's awesome. He's always been awesome. Even when he was Drunkens and Dragons or whatever, before he changed his name to Runehammer. I liked his channel that way too. But I used to love his crafting channels and his theory, not theory, but his encounter building where you do like a battle board and have like a timer for different like effects. I liked a lot of that stuff. I got a lot of great ideas from that. Cyberpunk Red. So yeah, that's based on it's not based on the video game. The video game came out this year too, right? Cyberpunk 2077 or whatever. I heard that Cyberpunk Red was actually one of the more popular RPGs in sales this year. Like behind 5e, like number 2 is what I heard, which I'm sure is because of the video game being so popular. But yeah. Yeah, so again, there's a ton I would love to try. When it comes to reviews though, so what I'm looking for when it comes to a review is a game that I truly like, or like certain aspects to it. For example, Dragon Age or Fantasy Age, I will probably do full-on reviews of those and specific books. I do love those games. I like how simple it is to play. Those are games I would love to review and put more eyes on. I do like D&D 5e, I do enjoy Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but again, there are things about it I don't like. So that's one of those ones that I think is more on the fringe. It's like, I like it. I can definitely say a lot of good things about it with some criticism. So I don't like doing reviews if it's just me saying how great a game is. I do like to review games where I do have a couple criticisms, but I do also want to be able to say that it's a good game. I don't like doing reviews if I don't like a game. There have been times when people have paid me to review their games. They sold me on their game. I was really excited, and they paid me to review their games. And when you start getting into it and you feel like there are huge gaping holes or huge flaws, it's really hard to review that and not feel like you're just taking someone's money. I don't like to do that. I would love to get to a point where I review products I want to review. I don't rely on getting paid at all. Because again, right now I am a stay-at-home dad. That's what I do. I am looking for a job, but when it comes to sponsorships and reviews and things like that, if someone's willing to pay me, I have to weigh, do I want to review this product for this money? Or do I want to review this product because I like the product? Maybe I get some affiliate sales, something like that. Or do I just want to review this product to help this person out over here? Those are the three things. And reviews take a lot of time, like actual in-depth reviews. So that's why I've promised people if they send me a product, I will at least look at it. I will at least post some photos of it, things like that. Might do a flip through, might do an unboxing. I don't guarantee reviews to companies that are like, hey, I'll send you this, unless I know I'm going to like the product, right? Like, for instance, the Fallout RPG. Awesome. I think that book is great. I'm not real keen on like the D20, the 2D20 system and like basically buying dice for your dice pool and giving up a resource for that and stuff like that. Because to me, that starts taking out role play ideas in my head. Whereas like other games that are more intuitive for me when it comes to that, the numbers help me tell the story. You know, like if I barely succeed on, like, for instance, in a 2D20, like Octon Cthulhu, it was success based. You need to get 2 successes to succeed at this. Okay, so there, to me, there's not really much of a difference between a second and third success, right? It's not like you just blow by it, unless you get like the crit, right? But the crits are, it's a little different in that game. Whereas like D&D 5e, if you know the to hit of something is like a 12 and I rolled a 26, well, I hit that thing solid. Like I know in my head exactly how to role play this, how to describe it. It makes perfect sense to me how to role play it, right? I get an image just by knowing the number difference roughly. And I don't always get that with other games, especially dice pool games and stuff. Now, games like Fantasy Flight, Star Wars and stuff, the dice also help tell a story. So it's not necessarily about numbers and stuff. It's about reading what the dice are saying and applying it contextually. Like being able to succeed at something, but then have negative things happen and stuff like that is really cool. It adds to the role play. So I like that dice pool game, for example, whereas other dice pool games are probably just not my thing, right? I can enjoy them, again, I can have fun, and but when it comes down to it, they'll probably never be my preferred game system. It might be my preferred game system for a specific setting. It might be a go-to if I really want to play a game that has a certain feel. For example, if I want to play Fallout, I'm going to try to play the Modifius Fallout game. However, if I want to play Rifts, I'm going to play Rifts, right? I'm probably not going to use the Fallout system from Modifius to recreate Rifts, and I'm not going to recreate Fallout by trying to play Rifts. You know, while there's some things that might be similar, to me, they're two different things, and those systems complement their own settings well. So I'm still going to go with the system that works better for that setting, you know? And that's why I think the Superheroes RPG thing is so important to me. I can refer to Heroes Unlimited books and make characters and, you know, use the pre-gen characters from like Villains Unlimited and other things, but the stat blocks are really in depth in Palladium book system. They're pretty long. They're usually so the way the books are laid out, it's in, you know, double columns. It's old school 80s style, 2 columns, and a character sheet or their stat blocks are basically a full page in a lot of those, especially when you're talking about heroes. And a lot of the stat blocks don't tell you how the specific powers work. So it'll tell you the power, and then you'll have to go to another book to look up that power. So it's kind of a pain in the butt when it comes to that. And I personally feel like a stat block should give you everything you need to run that encounter for the most part. You know, like D&D 5e has that. Like you get everything you need in the stat block to run the encounter. It's going to tell you how that specific ability works. So you could easily just do that. Kind of off on a tangent here, but yeah, so again, there are games that, again, I think complement the type of game, the type of feel you want or the type of setting. Again, Modifius, great games. I've got Fallout, I've got Star Trek. Dishonored is on its way. So we'll be looking that over. Probably try to play those next year and do a review on those. Again, I think those, at least the Star Trek and the Star Trek one I have is not the Klingon one. The Klingon one looks really cool. I would love to try that too. But I have the Star Trek Adventures, the regular core book, and then the Fallout one. Those books, I think, really capture the feel of what they're going for. You know, the Star Trek one has a lot of stuff about ships, different ships, the galaxy, all sorts of awesome stuff. Different ranks, like as you for the crew members, a lot of good information in there, and I think that especially the 2D20 system, I do think works well for a Star Trek game. I really do think it'll work well for that. The Fallout one, again, there's a lot of cool mechanics in there that look interesting. The dice pool for me might be off for Fallout a little bit. However, I think the other things like not crafting necessarily, but like building out your weapons and things like that, I think is really cool, and I would love to dabble with that a little bit in that game. So I think Fallout could be a lot of fun using the Modiphius system. Another thing I would like to try that I've tried a lot. I've actually played a lot of Savage Worlds, in my opinion. I've played probably 15 sessions of Savage Worlds. Maybe not that many. Maybe not. Maybe more like 10 to 12. Various systems, Shintar, superheroes, Savage Rifts. And while I've had fun, I can honestly say there were times where I was like, I really am not feeling this system. Or at least I thought it was the system. And maybe it wasn't. A lot of those games were with the same groups, or at least, the core of the group was the same with some other people that would jump in and out. Played it at conventions, played it with one of the developers twice, once where he was the player. Actually, 3 times. Twice where he was running it and once where he was playing it. And while, again, I had fun and there were definitely cool moments in those games, I left those games thinking, man, the system gets in the way for me at times. So I would be willing to try that game with a whole new group at least one more time. I've never run Savage Worlds, just been a player. I don't know if I would want to run it. The thing with Savage Worlds, when I first read it and first time I created a character, I was like, oh, this is amazingly simple. It's easy. Like, creating a character does not take long, especially if you have a concept up front. It's really quick. You go through, you apply points. You don't roll for stuff. I don't think. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. It's been like 5 years since I've done that. But you go through, you choose like what archetype you're going to be. So for example, in my Shintar game, I was one of these lizard people who specialized with a double-headed spear, which immediately made me go, oh, okay, this guy's going to be kind of like Darth Maul with a tail. And, there's what they call edges and hindrances. So an edge is like a positive thing. You can take a hindrance to give yourself an edge. So it's like a situational bonus, but you give yourself a situational negative. For example, maybe one of your hindrances is you have one eye. So that might make accuracy or, and again, I'm just pulling this out of my butt because I haven't played it in a while, but that might make your accuracy, your perception, like a couple different things have a negative to the rolls. Whereas then you might take an edge for extremely agile. I don't know. Again, I'd have to open the books. But now you get a bonus to being agile or whatever, or acrobatic or something, or naturally talented, whatever. I don't know. Maybe you have an extra limb, whatever. Cybernetic implant for your eye. So a lot of things that can happen there. And then again, you put your points where you want in your base attributes, and then your base attributes, while they do some stuff, the thing that they really do is when you go to the skills associated with them, if you put a rank in something, so your attributes aren't static numbers, they're dice. So everything starts as a D4. As you put a rank in it, it goes up to like a D6, D8, D10, D12. So if, say, your strength is a D8, or we'll say D6, and, whatever. So then over here, maybe you choose a skill that's strength-based. It takes one rank to get it for each rank up until you go beyond your actual attribute associated with it. So if the attribute's a D6, once you go to D8 with that skill, that costs you 2 ranks. So I kind of like how that works. I think that's a pretty cool concept. Where Savage Worlds has lost me in the past was you're rolling 2 sets of dice. You're rolling a wild die, which is always a d6, and then you're rolling the die that's associated with the skill. So say you have like a driving skill of d10, you're rolling a d10 then, and you're also rolling a d6 because you are a player character. Player characters and bosses are the only ones in the game that get to do the wild die. Mooks or minions do not get a wild die. So they'd be easier to handle, right? Because you're not rolling 2 sets of dice and keeping track of it. The reason you have to keep track of it is because it does exploding dice. So if you roll a 10 on a d10, that explodes, you get to roll it again. Same thing with the d6. So and then you, of the two, you don't add them up, you take whichever one is higher. So if the d6 exploded 3 times, you're at 12, maybe 15. The d10 exploded once, so now you're keeping track. Okay, I rolled 15 over here, and this one I rolled this, and then that's the part where it pulls me from it when it comes to Savage Worlds, as well as I don't like using regular cards for initiative. I'd rather just roll the d20. If you want to use the Joker mechanic, which is a +2 on all your rolls, and you get a Benny, then make that happen when you roll a crit. That's what I would want to do. But again, I in theory, when I first saw Savage Worlds and I went through it, we created a character, and I went through how the game works, I was like, this is simple. I'm going to like this. And then every time I've played it, I don't know if it was because of how the combats were set up. I don't know. But it felt like when we got into combat, sometimes combats took a long time. And I think it's because you had to wound them 3 times to kill them. Whereas if it's a minion, it's just 1 time and they're dead. The problem is if you get hit, every time there's a wound, it's a penalty to all your rolls. So if you get hit and you take 1 wound, you're -1 on everything. If you take 2 wounds, you're -2 on everything. And that's when it gets really difficult. You get to a point where like both sides are missing each other, especially in boss fights. So it's like, all right, it's my turn. I roll, I miss. Oh, your turn. You roll, you miss. Now, you can also choose like, hey, I want to take a penalty and do multiple attacks. Like I want to hit like 3 times. All right, first one hit, great. Second one's a minus. The third one's a further minus. And that's not counting if you've been wounded. So again, I think those are, I understand it being there. I think the wound system can be fine. I just don't know. For me, again, I think I have to try with one other group to really convince myself it's not for me, or maybe it is a game I could play. I don't know. I've thought like, if they got rid of the wild die, I'd probably like it more. If you had a house rule to not use the cards for initiative and you just rolled dice, maybe that would make it a lot better for me. I don't know. Not sure. Let's see. Rollstat says, that's how I feel about 2D20 systems. I feel like the system hinders gameplay rather than helping it. It actually pulls me out of the game and lessens my immersion. Yeah, and I think, I think the system can work for some people. You just gotta like wrap your head around it, and if it works for you and it adds to the role play, with the dice pool thing, and then cool. For me, I think it does pull me out of it a little. I don't know if it's something that if I played 2D20 systems more that it would stick. But I don't think right now it does. You know what I mean? Again, it can still be fun. Like, you can role play all the other stuff. It's just once you get into a lot of the dice rolling, that's when I think games that if the dice mechanics don't work for you and you're doing a lot of dice rolling, that's when it can hinder things, especially. And then you leave a session like, that session was a slog, nothing memorable happened or whatever. That's when it's tough, I think. When a system isn't necessarily your preferred and, it does hinder your role play, you can still have a lot of fun with infrequent dice rolls, right? Where you just don't roll the dice as much. And then you can have a really good time within that game and that system, whereas other people might like that system, things like that. But yeah, it doesn't, That's, I think, the issue, I think, when it comes to certain systems. There was a game about 7 years ago. I want to say it was like Fortune's Fool, something like that. It was sent to me as a PDF at the time. This was very early on when I had not reviewed anything for people yet. And I said, yeah, I'll take a look at it. And I started reading it, and it just used a deck of cards. And I was like, within minutes of getting into it, I was like, nope, this is not for me. You know, when I sit down to play an RPG, I want to use dice. I hear there's a RPG now that uses Jenga towers. Nope, I have no interest. In fact, there was a TikTok by a guy I follow. There's a section of TikTok called Beggar Talk, and it's for people who are pushing independent tabletop RPGs, more third-party type stuff. Definitely not 5e, not even usually old school games, just no D&D. They want all other RPGs, basically. And that's what they talk about. And this one guy and his partners created an RPG that uses the Jenga Tower, that system. And it's a slasher flick. Like, think Mike Myers and Halloween, Friday the 13th. And it's like, if only it didn't use that Jenga Tower, I would be all about wanting to try that. Because me and my wife the other day were talking about how I kind of wish there was a fun little, slasher flick RPG that you could just sit down and play as like a one shot or a very short campaign with your buddies. And it feels like a 1980s slasher flick. And we were watching Friday the 13th, the first one, part 1. And I was like, man, I wish there was an RPG that could like simulate this really well. And I mean, I could think of a million ways to do that, with like just a homebrew D&D, like literally use D&D rules. All the players have one hit die of hit points. They have no proficiencies, or at least no weapon proficiencies, no classes. They are level 0 characters. They might have some skills, but they are not running and they're normal people. They're not running around in armor. They don't have weapons, nothing like that. And then, the monster is like, Mike Myers or Jason or whatever, and can do a bunch of cool shit. And so the GM gets to run around and kill them, and they get to find a way to survive. I think that would be a lot of fun. But it would be very tactical. There we go. That's the word. But I think that would be a blast, And, I've seen people create Jason and Mike Myers and Freddy Krueger as D&D stat blocks. You can find them on Pinterest. There's a specific guy who does it on his Patreon, and he shares the stuff for free. I'll have to see if I can figure out who he is, but could even just use his little stat blocks for like Leatherface and whatever, Dread. Yeah, I get why the Jenga Tower's there, but I don't want to use a Jenga Tower if I'm playing a tabletop RPG. It just wouldn't work for me. So Roll Stat says, that sounds like the perfect D&D game. PCs are normal people, not superheroes. I mean, it's not, it wouldn't even be D&D at that point. Like, when you play D&D, you're kind of expected to loot, get treasure, whatever. You're playing like a fantasy game. If you're playing as camp counselors or whatever, and you're just trying to like come up with fun tactical things to stay alive or get away, and the GM's just screwing with you for 3 hours and picking off like NPCs that you're with and occasionally killing one of the players, that might be fun, But like, there would have to be some kind of a survival mechanic built into it. So maybe there's one house. So again, one house rule that gives the players a chance to get away for at least a minute. Maybe it's and maybe it's kind of like this sanity roll in like Cthulhu, where you have a certain amount of survival points, and that goes down, based on how you roll. Like, you make a survivor roll. If you fail, well, then Jason Voorhees just cut you. Now he rolls his damage, and that's how much comes off your health. If you succeed, you manage to, kick the the shovel in his way and trip him and get away for a minute, you know? Something like that might be really fun. So, I don't know. Dark Places and Demogorgons for a slasher game. Everyone is just a normal person. So I have that game. I've never played it. I remember going through it, and it looked all right. It looked interesting. Bloat Games, again, I like Eric Bloat. I love those guys. They had a really good sale over Black Friday. But yeah, I don't know. How would that do well for a slasher game? I don't know. Straight up Call of Cthulhu game for the slasher one shot. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could. That would probably work well also, you know? I think there's a lot of fun ways to do that. But I guess my point is there's certain mechanics I know I have no interest in. I do not want to use a Jenga tower. I will never want to, use a Jenga tower. Yeah, so Robin says, I second and third Savage Worlds. So I've played Savage Worlds, like I was saying earlier, many times. I've played with Sean Patrick Fannin, where he's run it twice. Once where he was a player alongside me. I've played it at Gen Con. I played it at Grand Con a few times, like 3 times at Grand Con. I've played it in home games, various settings. And I can honestly say Savage Worlds is not my jam as of right now. Maybe I need to try it with a different type of group, and I need to vet the group a little bit more. But I think there's just certain things that take me out of it. And I think it literally stems to the wound system, sometimes slowing down combat, especially boss battles. The wild die, I would get rid of the wild die altogether, honestly, if I was Savage Worlds. Or rather than make it a separate thing, make it just you add a d6 to your other roll. Maybe I would do that. Actually, that's probably what I would do. So you don't get rid of it. You just get an extra d6 that you add to your roll. That's probably how I would handle wild dice. And I would get rid of the cards for initiative. Just roll a d20, and if you roll a nat 20, then you get a bonus. You get the +2 like if you drew a Joker. So it's almost the same odds, because in a deck of cards, it's assuming it's a shuffled deck, it's like 1 in 27 chances of drawing a Joker, right? Something like that. So it's almost the same chances to get that crit. I mean, obviously it's more in your favor to roll the crit, but that's probably what I would do. As for like the other sets of cards that are optional that give you like boons, I'm fine with those. In theory, I like those, and I think if you got rid of those other things, those would still be cool. But yeah, I Savage Worlds was a cool game when I read it. It sounded cool, explained to me, and everybody I played it with, every single person loved it. Me and my wife both were like, meh. We both left it going, that is not the experience we really wanted from a system. But that's just us. It just never felt like it played fast. That's how it was always marketed to me. Everyone told me it's fast, it's quick, it's easy. And while it is, there are, again, too many things that stand in the way of the role play for me. But yeah, I'd really like to play Worldwide Wrestling. That is not a game that's necessarily about winning. It's literally about role playing. You are basically controlling a wrestler, and behind the scenes, while the focus is still mostly on the on-screen portion, it is the person running the game still is scripting the outcomes of the matches, and the role of you role-playing your wrestler is to put on the most entertaining matches, the most entertaining promos, and things like that. I found a really awesome live play of it that I watched the first half of it, and I was like, that is kind of fun. They even let the different players role play out the commercials. So they did like commercials in the show with like fake made up stuff. It'd be kind of like if Peter interrupted our Cthulhu games and had us do a commercial recruitment for the UNAS army, and then like another commercial for McDonald's or something, and we role played that out. It was really, really entertaining. So again, that I think could be a really cool game with people who understand wrestling terminology and like, at least like how some of the moves work and stuff like that. I think that would be a really fun game with the right group. And I'm sure one day I'll play it. I think it's actually done pretty well. Yeah, Worldwide Wrestling is cool. I just bought the book on Free RPG Day. I have it over on my shelf. I started reading it, and I think I just got busy with stuff, and I stopped after I got like a quarter of the way in. I had watched some live plays of it, found a really good one. So yeah, there was some cool stuff there. Peter, welcome, buddy. But yeah, what games have you wanted to try that you don't have? I still think having like a Matrix game would be really cool. I don't think they have one of those yet. A legitimate like tabletop game for like all the different Final Fantasy games would be cool as hell. Like there's just so many cool games you could do out there. But yeah, I really hope my friend finishes his Savage Wastelands game, the one that we played, Bill, that one time, where you were like I was the robot. I think you were the woman. I think you were just some Southern belle. I would love to see what happens with that, because that was a fun game, I thought. I'm gonna have to reach out to him and just see how that's coming along. For a while, I was getting on him about it. I was kind of like his accountability partner, and once he started not making progress after a few weeks, I was like, all right, I'm not going to bug you anymore. Are there wandering monsters in that wrestling RPG? No, so the wrestling RPG is literally the person running the game, so like the GM, is the booker, and the booker then schedules out what happens on a show, like who beats who does what promos when, who attacks who, whatever. And then when you get to those segments in the show, the players associated with those wrestlers role play it out. Now, there are times when certain wrestlers are not controlled by players. So you'll come up on matches that aren't controlled by players. You can ask a player to paraphrase what happened, or the GM can paraphrase what happened. And the idea is you build up your popularity as a wrestler, and you get more popular, and eventually it only makes sense that the GM would say, yeah, your guy should be fighting for the belt, and your guy's the top guy, things like that. The wrestling RPG also has pre-gen like rosters and pre-gen companies in it, so you can change different companies and stuff like that. There are like templates for types of wrestlers, and that's how you build your character. You choose a template. You come up with like where your guy's from, what he looks like. It's not like, oh, I gotta roll for this. Like, it's not a really in-depth like character creation thing. It's simple, but it's as deep as you want it to be as a wrestling fan. So like, for instance, in our Call of Cthulhu game, Bill has a character named Luther Styles, also known as the Brown Streak. Well, the Brown Streak is from wherever he's from. I don't remember where he's supposed to be from, but yeah, he literally wears underwear on his head, and his style is like more of a coward style, and he runs a lot, but at the same time, he'll get dirty when he has to, and so I imagine the few stats that you have in that would reflect that. Do you remember the old Space Quest video games? I do not know what that is. Or the likes of Monkey Island, really tongue-in-cheek games, and RPG-based. Like, that would be fun. So I'm going to go grab some stuff real quick. I will be right back. Let me go grab this. Just a moment. All right, I'm coming back. All right, I'm back. So I do have some stuff here that I do want to try. I just you saying like tongue-in-cheek games and things that don't take themselves too seriously. So I do have, this is not by that criteria, but I do have Vigilante City. I've looked through it. Vigilante City, I think the system is fine. However, I don't like how the classes are. They're very restrictive. Like I don't feel like I can create whatever concept I come up with and then make it in this game. So to me, a good superhero RPG, I feel like I should be able to make any concept I can come up with in that game. That's how I feel about superhero RPGs. I do have Dark Places and Demogorgons. I know they have like a werewolf version and things like that. Let me see something real quick. So yeah, like classes: the kid scientist, the nerd, the geek, the jock, extreme athlete, karate kid, breakdancer, goth, metalhead, preppy, the princess, teen heartthrob, bully, the hood, punk rocker. Yeah. So I think this could work for, like having a slasher. I don't see, looking at like the monsters in here. It's got some monsters, but it's more just regular monsters. I don't see, I don't know if it would work for what I was thinking for the slasher type of game, but maybe it would work well for like a recreation of Jason or something. Yeah, maybe it would. Yeah, I don't know. Like looking through here though, a lot of them have some hit points. For example, the nerd has 10 hit points. The preppy has 6 hit points. Interesting. The punk rocker has 8 hit points. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think this could work for that, though. So I would be willing to try this for like a slasher. But no, so the games that I have that don't take themselves too seriously are all from Orcs Unlimited games. For instance, We Hunt Bugs is one of them. It's kind of like that movie, what is it, Starship Troopers or whatever. Yeah, you basically hunt bugs. You shoot a bunch of bugs. That's the deal. It's got a bunch of high-tech weaponry. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't read it, but I remember when I got it, I was pretty excited about that. So that would actually be a fun game to play. And these also are not very expensive. That's the other thing that's really cool about these. So again, the Orcs Unlimited games. Another one that was interesting also from them is Escape from Teddy Bear Island. You can see it's got this really cool teddy bear on the back. Now, I don't think this stuff's on Amazon. You could go and find it, I think, direct on his website. So, yeah. Yeah, O'Neill Flynn, if you find something in one of the other books for that, let me know. Would love to check that out. The brown streak. Rollstat says, the brown streak may be cowardly, but he is still holding the undisputed tag team championship belt of Latin America. That is true. He is. I should bring the brown streak to life in Worldwide Wrestling. Robin says to O'Neill Flynn, I'd be willing to run some Savage Worlds for anyone that wants to try it. Yeah, I would definitely be down sometime. So one of the issues I have, though, is I cannot use a virtual tabletop at this time because I don't think my computer can handle streaming while also doing a virtual tabletop right now. That is the downside. Your character was Roger Wilco, janitor on some space station that ends up in all sorts of mad adventures. One of my 5e mates did an 80s horror slasher themed 5e one-shot. Yeah, see, that is what I'm talking about. That would be awesome. One of my character to either be the first to die or the last person standing. Usually the last person standing survives, and then they're the first one to die in the next show. Peter says, rolled up 2 characters. Chastity Prudemore, bard who is in Glee Club, who kissed a boy once but feels guilty about it. Uh-oh. It's that Sunday school preaching about going to hell. That's why she feels bad. The new Bloat Games book has a serial killer class and revenant class. Oh, okay, cool. You'll have to show me what they look like. Second character was Chad the Partymeister Alcock. Oh, jeez. Whose catchphrase would be, "I'll be right back." That's awful. But yeah, Teddy Bear Island is a pretty cool book. You got like these different classes and stuff and races. Yeah, so I don't know. This would be a game that I'd probably be willing to try. Small Wardens goes along with Teddy Bear Island, I think. I think it's similar. I don't know. Might be different. I think actually each one is a different game in and of itself. So Small Wardens, it just has a similar art style. Yeah. And it's also much thinner than Teddy Bear Island. And then Zombie Apocalypse, the musical. What's more fun than a barren wasteland full of the undead? One that has a jaunty soundtrack. Zombie Apocalypse, the musical, is a rules-light tabletop role-playing game that takes place in a world overrun by zombies. Add in a musical component, and you have a night of fun with your friends. Play this with like the the school choir, and you might have some fun with that. Again, they're interesting for sure. So again, I would love to try those. Now, these games, so again, Worldwide Wrestling, I got in a little bit. When it comes to the stat blocks, you have, let's see, is there a character sheet in the back? I feel like there should be. There might not be. It's got a list of moves and archetypes and stuff. Okay, so you've got where they're hailing from, what their entrance is like. So this one is the Luminary, hailing from, and you get to choose a couple places because, again, it's a template. You can write whatever you want in there, though. Entrance, custom composition, pop music tie-in, crowd-pleasing classic, something else. So, again, you can write what you want. Stats, you start with, so your stats are body, look, real, and work. Heat questions. Who was instrumental to my early success? Who wants me to just retire already? Who is honored to be on my team? Who knows about at least one of my dirty secrets? And then you put in like your wants. So this character wants a championship title, to join a group, revenge, domination, adulation of the crowd, mainstream recognition. And then you have finishers. So when you're booked to win a match, you can do your finishing move. You can accidentally hurt people in matches as well. On a 10 plus, you hit your finisher clean, gain +1 audience. On a 7 through 9, it's good enough, you gain 1 momentum. And on a botch, you still win, but they're disappointed at your lack of effort, you lose -1 audience. Yeah. So then I'm the draw, you're a multimedia star. You know, so these templates are kind of cool. Like, really cool. You just fill these things out, and that's kind of how you make your character. And there's a variety of types and things like that. I actually went and downloaded the PDF for this game of the different character archetypes and character sheets and things like that. So yeah, and you make various rolls, and on a roll you might botch a move and hurt somebody, or you might botch a move and the crowd loses respect for you. You know, all sorts of things like that. All I can picture now is that episode of South Park about wrestling. Which didn't they do more than one? I think they did more than one. So I also have from Strange Machine Games, I have 2 copies of Super Age. I believe I have 2 games from Strange Machine Games. I have Super Age and I've got Age Past. Now, one of these is like a D10 dice pool system. I'm assuming it's probably similar to, not similar, but maybe just the resolution aspect of it is maybe similar to the Modiphius game, but I don't know. I'm trying to find it because it's been a long time since I've looked at this. It's probably been like almost 2 years, a little over a year since I've actually looked at this. We were supposed to play with the creator of the game, and then he didn't we had a lot of scheduling issues trying to get it worked out, and then he kind of ghosted me for a bit. And so we just never came around. I was like, all right, well, this isn't working out to run this. So it was what it was. Okay, maybe I missed it. All right. Dice. Okay, so this one's the 3d6 version. Super Age uses the AD6 rolling system. The only dice used when playing Super Age are standard 6-sided dice called D6. It is suggested that a player have access to about 12 D6. If a rule calls for 3d6, this means that you need 3 6-sided dice. And then you get successes rolling 2 times 4s, a 5 or a 6 when rolling D6s for actions, with a 6 providing 2 successes instead of the normal 1. I don't understand. Successes are tallied and compared to a threshold in order to determine if an action is accomplished. Okay, so it looks like a success is achieved as a result of rolling 2 times 4s. So do you just add them? I don't know. Again, I don't know. I'd have to really sit down and try to play this game to understand. But yeah, it's a superhero game. So of course I was excited about trying this game and seeing if, it could do what I wanted a superhero game to do. I like the art. It's unique to the game itself. I like the book. I think it looks nice. This is a game I would like to try. I think it would be interesting. But I need to figure out the rules, because if I ever play it, it's probably going to be me running it, right? Because I don't know a lot of people who have this game. But yeah, Strange Machine Games, same company that makes Robotech now and some other stuff. But this is different than their Age Past game. So both of these are called Age. This is not to be confused with Fantasy Age or Modern Age. But yeah, so then this Age Past game has a very unique timeline. I remember this is a nice thick book. Has a unique timeline. This one's the D10 system. And again, I was hoping to play this with it's called the Elegant 10 system. When determining skill successes, a set of dice are rolled. Let's say 5 10-sided dice. The results are 2, 5, 6, 10, 10. Your total score is the value of the highest die rolled. In this case, it would be a 10. But since a second 10 has been rolled, the player would gain a +2 bonus for a total of 12. The more dice you roll, the higher chance to roll a high number. So yeah, this one is, again, a little bit tricky with how the resolution works. But yeah, I think the Super Age is similar but different. It's like, yeah, you roll 6s, you get +2 or something. I don't know. And then anything that's divisible by 4 gives you a +2 or a +1. Something like that. One RPG game me and my friends bought as kids but never got around to playing was the Robotech RPG. Yeah, I've never played Robotech. I never played Mechanoids. None of those. I think it would be all right. I played a computer game that was something like that back in the 90s. Where you had a giant mech and you could like rotate the top of yourself to point at other people while moving in this other direction and shoot stuff and blow stuff up. And you got to kind of custom build your thing out. It was a computer game. I don't remember what it was. Probably like a Mechanoid or Mech Warrior or something game. And it was fun. But yeah. Battlefield Press is about to do their second Robotech book for Savage Worlds. I got the first one, but haven't played it yet. That's interesting. So you could then cross over Robotech into Savage Rifts. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, there's again a lot of games I want to play. I'm always down to try something, especially if someone's willing to run it and provide a pre-gen. Because sometimes character creation, in fact, most of the time, it's not really fun, especially if you don't have the books yourself and you're not sitting there with the person. Character creation sucks, like, over the internet when you don't have the books. and I don't like PDFs. So, yeah. In fact, the only thing I really use PDFs for is if I'm going to screenshot something usually, or to skim something. I don't like reading through PDFs. Mech Warrior, yeah, that's probably what it was. It was a DOS-based game. We ran it on Windows 95. It was probably back in 98, maybe 97. So, yeah, it was a 90s game. It was cool. I remember it, thinking it was cool. I think you, like, built your mech in, like, what looked like a shop, like a very, like, industrial-looking thing. And then you went out and you're, like, running over hills and stuff and shooting other mechs. It was fun. I did that very crossover Cyclone pilot that was also a Were-Jaguar. Because riffs. Yeah, you can simply just say because riffs for a lot of things. But yeah, so I don't know. So my ideal systems, because again, talking about game systems, my ideal systems are quick, simple systems from a mechanical standpoint in game. That does not mean character creation has to be quick and simple. However, if you're spending 2 hours creating a character, once you know what you're doing, it's too damn long. You should be able, once you know a system, to create a character in under an hour. No questions asked. I don't care if it's a point-buy system. I don't care if it's dice rolling. I do not care. It should not take more than an hour once you know what you're doing. And I say that because there might be a lot of things to read about the different options that might take a while, especially your first time. But once you know things, it shouldn't take a long time, in my opinion. And part of my philosophy on that, the reason I think, part of the reason I think that is because I don't, if I have a character that took me hours to build, to play at a table, I don't want them to die because I don't want to create another character because it's going to be so agonizing creating another character, right? Character creation can be fun, but not if it takes 2-3 hours to do. We were making Peter's character, who is from Heroes Unlimited. It's an alien robot. And the robot aspect of that game takes a long time to build, which isn't so bad. Like, it's not, that part doesn't bother me. But then when you get to skills, the skills aren't fun. They aren't exciting. And so when you're going through all the skills that you can select, that's where Palladium loses me a lot in character creation. Because I don't want to have to do that. And then especially if you have new players, you then have to, like, explain how skills work to them. And, you know, maybe let them read the multiple paragraphs for a skill if they really want to. And, you know, some skills give you more than just the skill. It might give you another skill. So, that's the aspect I don't like about Palladium and makes it take too long. You know? Whereas, like, Savage Riffs, for example, you can make a Riffs character very quickly. And I like that. However, you could incorporate more choices into it, like using edges and hindrances and stuff. I find Pathfinder 2nd Edition to be a very crunchy system for me. However, I think character creation is awesome. I love character creation in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I could sit there and make characters all day and have fun. D&D 5e, probably a little bit too simple to create a character, because you make one selection and you get, like, all this stuff. Like, boom, that's what you get. Sometimes you get to choose something, but I don't want to just be given a bunch of stuff with it. I just want to be able to choose a couple things, you know? And as you level up or whatever, however the game works, maybe choose new things as you get better, you know? That's what I want to do. You know? Like, Call of Cthulhu is kind of cool in how they've designed their system with skills. Because if you just use a skill, you build that skill, you know? Or have a chance to build that skill. Love that. That would be a lot better if Palladium incorporated those kinds of skills, in my opinion. Whereas, yeah, you get to pick a couple and put points into wherever you want. However, rather than worrying about leveling up based on your hand-to-hand fighting style or whatever, you then bump those things. Meh, if it takes longer than 15 minutes to create a character, it's too long. Yeah, I get that, Bill. I lean that direction, I think. But you know me, I love having a lot of choices for different things. You know, like if I wanted to make again, thinking of more superhero characters rather than like D&D characters. Like if I wanted to make Batman, well Batman in my opinion should not take any longer than 15 minutes to build. If I want to build again a machine, like some kind of machine or a robot or a cybernetic character, yeah, I think it probably should take a little more than 15 minutes to build. You know, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, I agree. I think in a D&D style game, character creation probably should be quicker. If you have a concept in mind for 5e or any of those games, I agree. It should be less than 15 minutes. I can create a character in 5e using D&D Beyond in like 3.5 minutes. So to me, that's fine. I have a tool that helps make it quicker. Because once I already know the concept, I should just be able to go boop, 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 boop. You know, if writing is the longest part of it, then that's not a problem to me. You know? And I'm not talking about like, oh yeah, I just click a random button and I don't like that's cool. That's a nice tool to have for any game. But yeah, I'm not even considering those. You know? 5e is a bit funnily. Yeah, like once you choose a fighter, you really don't have you have one choice of the fighting style. Then you have a choice of your subclass. And I think based on your subclass, if you took champion, you have no more choices until like 8th level or something, unless you do a feat at 4th level. But yeah, like I like having choices. I like making a character, or just like for instance in Pathfinder, when you level, you can choose a class feat, which could be something real basic, or it could be something else. That cup is freaking me out. What, this one? Why is it freaking you out? Do I have my green screen on? Is that... Oh, it's the green screen. I didn't realize I had my green screen settings on. Let me fix that. There you go. My bad. Yeah, my green screen's in the garage right now. But yeah, I'm all about quick games to play at the table. I guess I just think that your character is how you roleplay it. I don't disagree with that, Bill. But no matter how you roleplay, we've had this talk, but no matter how you roleplay your character, if you have a character that is in your mind, I can't. Do you watch the show Gotham? There's like if someone's a sniper, you expect them to be able to do a couple things extremely well, like shoot through a frickin' hole the size of a dime at 100 yards away, right? You expect to be able to do that with that type of character. You know, so you need to have something mechanically to reflect that. Otherwise, again, you're just role-playing that. You know, that's not... Your role-play, though, will be trumped by the fact that you can't ever actually do the thing that you envisioned for your character. You know what I mean? But I completely agree with you. But I think mechanics do play a role in that. We've went back and forth on that before. I don't even know if you're the minority. I think it's just different theories and philosophies. And yeah. Roll your stats, buy your gear, and play. Be whatever you want to be, bring personality to your character, and all is good. 5-minute character builds. Yeah, I think you can do it, especially older games where there wasn't as much mechanically to building characters. Again, I think that's fine. That's a quick, easy way to get into it. But then that trumps coming up with a concept up front, because if your stats that you rolled don't reflect that, like if my concept is I want my guy to be a brutish fighter, but I roll shitty constitution or no strength, I'm not a brutish fighter. Now I have to change what I am or what I wanted to play to suit that. Now, let's assume the DM lets you place it where you want. Okay, you rolled one good stat, and let's say your best stat was a 13 or a 14, because let's assume you're doing 3d6 down the line. Okay, you put the 13 into strength, you're slightly above average, but your next highest stat isn't really going to make too much of a difference in constitution and things like that. You're still not that brutish fighter style that you wanted to be. You know? So yeah, it's a quick build. Is it something that you wanted to play? Maybe not. Maybe it is. Yeah, like I know a lot of people, like again, people are all over the place. Especially in older editions, I don't like playing spellcasters at all. Like the idea of playing a wizard in old school, I'm not a fan of it. Like, yeah, it can be fun, but it's like, again, there's not a lot of choices. And to me, that's what makes spellcasters better in newer editions, being able to have different choices and having a few of them, more than just like one or two, you know? And just like, I understand the survival aspect can be a lot of fun, and it can be fun for me sometimes, but I don't always want to be like, oh shit, I'm going to be over the next 10 sessions just trying to keep this guy alive so I can get something cool, like a certain spell or whatever. So yeah, playing character with suboptimal stats makes it more fun. That's where I don't always agree. Sometimes for me it can, but not always. But that doesn't mean I need optimal stats either. I prefer to go from a concept and make the concept. That's what I prefer. And I do think this comes from the years of building characters and not having a gaming group. I think that's where because I used to do that with Heroes Unlimited. I'd be like, well, can I make Wolverine? Oh, I can. I'm going to take, back then I would take the super soldier option under experiment, I think, and boom, 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 boom. And get the super abilities for, in that it was it healing factor? It was either healing factor or regeneration. One or the other, not both. And then get the cybernetic implants for the spikes, but not necessarily the full exoskeleton, because I don't think you could do that through I can't remember exactly. You couldn't get all the abilities to make Wolverine perfect. You kind of had to stretch it with the core book. However, through Powers Unlimited 2, you can actually make Wolverine now, like correctly. But yeah, I used to theory craft all the time. Batman was a hardware character for me when I was a teenager. Now looking back at it, he was probably more of a super operative that, was it super operative? Operative? I don't know. Can't remember now. But he's now more of that class type under special training and just a high education because, again, he's a billionaire. And yeah. So again, the different things. But I used to theory craft all the time. And I think that's where my love of building characters from a concept comes from. I see the appeal of both. Yeah, I do too. I just think for me, I lean towards concept first. But I've had fun making just 3d6 down the line characters and seeing what I come up with. And I've had fun role-playing some really crappy characters before. But especially playing an old school game, when you make a crappy character, they're not usually going to be around that long unless you really try hard to keep them alive. But then it's like detrimental to the group sometimes to even play that character, and gets other characters killed sometimes. You know, it's one of those things. I'm a fighter with an 8 strength. The fun is how you role play that. Why do you have an 8 strength? Play that up. Oh no, I get it. I understand. But see, that's more of, let's see what the dice tell me I'm playing, then come up with a concept around it. You know, whereas I like to come up with a concept and then build to that. An effective character is preferable to a min-max optimized character. Yeah, and I don't even care if it's effective or not effective. Again, I'm just about concepts. Like, for example, my backup character in our Tomb of Annihilation game, I could meta and build an awesome character if I really wanted to be OP in our Tomb of Annihilation campaign. We're level 8 or 9 at this point. I could easily go through and make a character that can survive pretty much anything, right? But right now I'm playing a pretty much straightforward barbarian. And it's just the bear totem barbarian. I'm not like, multi-classing, I don't think. I'm not doing any of that stuff. Just straight up barbarian. Now, my backup character is a warlock that's meant for up close fighting. Now, warlocks are not more effective than most classes up front. I'm using magical darkness, which obviously gives me advantage and I'm not using it, but my intention is to have magical darkness. He's going to be Pact of the Blade, also a pact with the Great Old One. He's going to have Devil Sight, so he can see in magical darkness. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've always wanted to play an up-close warlock. Use some magical armor, the spell that you cast on yourself at the start of the day. Boom, now you got some armor. I want to have the breathe underwater thing where you can also cast that on one other person. But my guy is not centered around Eldritch Blast, and I want to be able to read all languages. That was another one, one of the other packs you can get. I think there's like 3 or 4. So it's like the breathe underwater, the read all languages, and the seeing in darkness, magical darkness. And then he uses magical darkness, and then his weapon he can put into a pocket dimension. That's my warlock build. Like, that is my concept. It's not necessarily OP. Situationally, it's great. Tomb of Annihilation, though, is known for a lot of traps. None of those things really help with traps that I know of. I mean, I guess the reading all languages might lead to giving you clues. I guess breathing underwater if somehow you get drowned somewhere and then you can't drown. Like, I guess those two things. But those are, again, very situational. Don't think those are going to come up in those ways. But I think that's a cool character for, just D&D in general. I really want to play that character. B. Drake says, I have enjoyed the random rolling for stats and seeing where the RP goes. LBJ, Pike. Yeah, I agree. I like doing it too. That's why I encourage other people to do it as well. Even in 5e, just see where the dice go. If you roll poorly, stick with it. Now, I don't want to force someone to play a character they don't like, but I've totally tried to incentivize that for players in games and stuff. The trickiest character and longest I've had to research was in a 5e game where I was rogue arcane trickster, but pretending to be a pious, stick in the mud, condescending cleric. Oh, gotcha. The Trant. Yeah, see, the Trant was cool. Rollstat says, see, but that sounds interesting. Back when Paula was playing Keep on the Borderlands, her first character, she asked me to create her background, and I made her a reluctant cleric. Rest in peace. She died in a horrible way. She began as a charlatan who faked miracles, but was acknowledged by her god and was compelled to fulfill the promises she had made. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. And that's like the more, like, the character of the character, And that can be done with that can all be done regardless of stats, though. Like, all of that stuff could be done with a 20 and everything character, Beautiful obituary, and she kept her nose. I don't think they're exclusive to one way or the other. Like, you can come up with awesome, fun characters and have a fun build. Those are two completely different things in my mind. And you can have either one influence the other. So when I have a concept, sometimes the character aspect is the concept. Sometimes it's a mechanical thing that's the concept. Like, it varies. It's all over the place for me. But I like to start there and then do that. Sometimes I am like, hey, let's roll 3d6 down the line and just take it. I've done that in 5e, where I wanted to encourage players, including myself, to do 3d6 down the line and see what we come up with. I think a lot of my preferences stem from early experiences, though, and a lot of my early experiences were with Palladium Books and Heroes Unlimited. And in that, any stat less than a 16 is useless. It doesn't give you any negatives, no positives, nothing. And that's, I think, one of the issues where it's like, yeah, okay, so you roll the stats. Most of them don't mean anything. At the time you roll them, it's like, all right, whatever. Those are like good baselines. You can bump them up with other like abilities you take or whatever, But yeah, so I think that originally formed my why I built characters the way I did. And I did it that way for so long that it became natural to build from. Because even if you roll stats in Heroes Unlimited, if you don't have a stat higher than that's a 16 or higher, then again, there's no bonuses, no negatives to any of your rolls, right? And so from there, you still are left either rolling for what you want to play, like what Peter and I did off stream in making his character, or like what I did with the techno guy I made on stream. And you end up with just random builds, and sometimes things don't mesh well together. So we made that techno. It was it wasn't really alter physical structure, but it was like techno link or whatever. Was one of his major abilities. Another ability he had was illusions. They don't really go together, but whatever, right? Sometimes you get things that make no sense together, like alter physical structure fire and can turn your finger into a knife, or alter physical structure ragdoll and mechano link where you can like plug into the computer, stuff like that. So like sometimes random rolls would be really fun. Other times you'd be like, man, this doesn't even make sense. And then you really try to stretch, and it wasn't always fun with doing that in Heroes Unlimited. The tricky part with my rogue build was picking spells and such that would allow me to pass myself off as a cleric. The rest of the party hated him, but never caught on that I was robbing everything. So how did they just not metagame, or did you like pass notes to the DM? I'm curious how you did that without them knowing. Was it that the characters didn't know or the players didn't know? Or obviously both, I guess, in that case. Because I could see doing that like online with like some private chat things, like using Zoom and private chatting someone and saying, hey, I want to pickpocket Peter's character. Something like that. The other thing you could do is you could have taken Magic Initia as a cleric or something. As your rogue. And then had a couple cleric spells. That's funny though. They hated him. So did they hate your cleric because he wouldn't heal him? Was that the real reason? One of the saddest moments I've ever had with this group was Astrid's death. I'm serious. It devastated me. So I don't think I've ever had a character death impact me. Like, the most impactful death was just a surprising death, and that was because we had PvP. And that was in the Gith Yankee game, where I was playing a Gith that was the Prodigy and built like Brock Lesnar. So rather than being skinny and frail looking like all Gith, mine was like big and bulky because I think we had rolled stats and I ended up with like an 18 strength. So I was like, hey, like I've got high strength here. I don't have a lot of other high stats. Like, can I make this his description? They're like, yeah. And then like the GM was like, yeah, we're going to come up with a name for him. Oh, we'll call him the Prodicarum, which meant like the prodigy or the prophet or the chosen one. And so like 30 minutes into the session, after building this up and talking about this character for weeks off stream and stuff, he ended up getting cut in half by the captain, which was played by Lloyd Collins. And he took my own greatsword, cut me, Misty stepped away, and then Misty stepped back on his next turn, cut me in half on the second attack with smite. It was pretty bad. And I wasn't devastated. I was just shocked because I was like, man, we have put so much time into the story and all this stuff off stream, and he's dead within like a half hour of playing him. Passed notes to the DM, played virtually on Zoom. Okay. Every time I took my glasses off, I had sent a PM to her. It was so fun. Had a healing potion hidden in my sleeve, but I'd refuse to heal any conscious characters because they weren't followers of Helm, and he wouldn't approve of healing disbelievers. Okay, so that's funny. But that's not based on die rolls. That was just you made a rogue, right? Or did this come from how you rolled the character ahead of time and then you chose a rogue because of it? I kind of like that. I think that's brilliant. That's a fun character build for sure. Again, I think it's fine. So yeah, when it comes to reviewing games, though, back kind of the original thing for O'Neill Flynn. I prefer a few things. When I sit to review a game, I want it to be a game I at least like. At least part of it. I want to be able to see some good in the system. Because I don't want to be like just dogging on a game. I don't ever want to do all negative videos. I can't stand that. And especially if a game is supplied to me, because most of the time if we're talking about reviewing a game, it's either a game I do already love or it's a game that's supplied to me and I'm being paid to review. And so if there is nothing I like about the game, I will take a different viewpoint on it and I will ask myself, what about this game might somebody else like? And so then I will do a review on the game based on what I think other types of gamers might enjoy about the game. Like if a game is crunchy, I will say if you're into more crunchy games that simulate such and such and such, this might be the game for you, and so I'll take that more of a standpoint like that. If the setting is something people are really into, like Fallout, if you're really into the Fallout video games and, you want to be able to play in that setting and play a game that can do a lot of the stuff from the video games, then I think, again, you might want to check out that tabletop game. And so I will, again, cater my review as, does this apply to the people that might like that? And so that's how I do my reviews, and that's how I like to do my reviews. Again, I don't want to do super negative reviews, no matter what, even if it's a game that I'm not being paid to do. I don't want to do super negative reviews. I don't like that. I will be honest with my opinion no matter what. Like if someone were to ask me like, hey, do you think, this game is a superb RPG? I might go, for some people, yeah, for me, not so much. And that's kind of how I phrase it. And I will also explain based on my experiences. Like, for example, everybody I've ever talked to about Savage Worlds loves that game. My wife and I are the only people that I know of that didn't really enjoy it when we played it. Every single person, every single one I've ever talked to who's played it liked Savage Worlds. So, that's just kind of my thing there. Now, even when I love a game or like a game, I do also like to mention a couple critiques or criticisms about those games, because I don't think, from my experience, there is no perfect game yet. I have not seen one. I've not played one. There's nothing perfect. There's always something that can be adjusted, made better, improved upon, or maybe just applies to different people. So I can offer a criticism for every game. Even if I do think the game is pretty much perfect, I can still offer criticisms for other people who might not like certain things. And for some people, my criticisms might not be a criticism. Things that I might not like about an RPG, you guys might actually like that. So sometimes even criticisms aren't always a bad thing for all viewers. Like, I know plenty of Palladium Books fans who think the Palladium system is great how it is, and with some minor tweaks, they would think it's perfect. I am not one of those people, and Palladium Books is what I grew up on. It's what I do like. However, again, it's not my favorite system. I have nostalgia for it, but there's a lot of things I would change about it. And I think it could be my favorite system with a lot of the changes I have recommended in the past. My thinking was, if you're an arcane trickster, you'd be tricking and be a charlatan, not strolling into town and saying, hey, I'm an arcane trickster rogue. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I don't think anyone would go into a town and say, hey, I'm a this or a that. Like, I mean, even the concept of classes is kind of interesting, isn't it? Like, Do you think, obviously, I think like a barbarian and a fighter, those are meta terms, you know? You could play a barbarian that's really just the fighter class, you know? Or you could play a fighter who's the barbarian class, so you could go both ways with that. Is I guess part of it is like your training, right? That's what dictates if you're a fighter. Do you have formal training? But then there's backgrounds like the knight and things like that. So I don't know. I think class referring to characters by their class in game is very meta. You know? And I understand how you can differentiate them still, but like druids and clerics aren't really much different, I think, from a in-game standpoint, right? I mean, really a druid could be like a cleric just with a nature deity, right? You could make a druid and just say that they're a cleric for a nature god or something, right? Couldn't you? Couldn't you make that work from a role play perspective? From a setting perspective? I don't know. Master the game. I do really like the balance, objectivity, and lack of negativity in your style. I appreciate that. Yeah, I try to stick with that. I don't like to be a negative person, but I do like to be an honest person. With my opinions, at least. I'm not a fan of the notion of barbarian as a separate class, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I like rangers are the weird one for me in the newer editions, right? I don't like rangers having spells at all. To me, rangers are not spellcasters, you know? I think rangers should be good at I think rangers should be a subclass of fighter, personally. Rollstat says, "You're making my point for me, Juice. You can be whatever you want to be. Class doesn't matter." That's my point. No, I agree, but I still like them. I don't like how Dungeons and Dragons does classes now, though. That is what it comes down to. I think having choices within those is cool, and I don't think you need a ton of class options, but I like having options within the classes if you do a class-based system. Like, think about it. Why not just get rid of classes altogether and actually have the choices? Like, you don't have a martial class or a spellcaster class or this or that. But at first level, you choose, oh, I want to be able to cast spells. Okay, you got that. That's what you chose at first level. You can cast spells. And because it's one level of spellcasting, these are the spells you can choose from. This is how they work. Or maybe this person over here says, well, I want to be really good with the sword. All right, you could choose a fighting style. I choose the whatever fighting style. Or maybe they don't choose a fighting style. Maybe they choose, I don't know, Battle Master or whatever. So now they get the points to do that. Make it more modular and less class-based. But you still have these options. Now, the problem with doing that is that you now can end up with some wonky combos, and some builds then become optimal, and that's the issue with why it's harder to do character creation that way. Because then trying to figure out, okay, well, prerequisites for everything and stuff like that, that's when the illusion of balance gets wonky, right? That's the issue. Like, I can't be a wizard that wears heavy armor and casts spells still in an old edition of the game. I will never be able to cast spells well in heavy armor in those old games. No matter what. But I can do that in D&D 5e. That doesn't mean I'm a great spellcaster, and it doesn't mean I'm great at combat up front. It doesn't even mean I'm optimal. It just means I have heavy armor because I decided to go with Mountain Dwarf, and then at 4th level I took the Heavy Armor Master, so now I've got heavy armor, and oh yeah, I'm a dwarf, so I got the bump to strength and con, didn't get the bump to intelligence, so I'm not really the most optimal wizard. I'm definitely not an optimal fighter. I'm just a wizard in heavy armor. And most people would say, well, why wouldn't you just do a fighter Eldritch Knight? Because I wanted to be a fucking wizard that wears heavy armor. Like, you know? But that's where I come from, my concepts, and, you know, doing that. So, again, I think it would be cool to have a stripped down system where it's not class-based. And again, this is just one of my millions of ideas, but not class-based, but you could make all the types of characters you can think of in D&D or whatever, any kind of fiction. Shadow the Demon Lord has a very good system for letting you build a diverse and interesting character by your choice of novice, expert, and master paths. Interesting. Hot take. Balance is boring, broken, and has no place in RPGs. I don't want balance. I don't care about balance. Yeah, I don't... So, the problem is there is no real balance in any game. And the more... Like, what was it? D&D 4th edition supposedly was too balanced, where things literally were even across the board, right? Never played 4th edition. Don't know. But yeah, that's what I've heard. So, I don't know. The one thing I'll say is I've, in older editions, had a group where we both were playing. We had two fighters and a ranger. The DM accidentally let one of the players, as a ranger, take weapon specialization. He chose the same specialization as me as a fighter. I obviously was a fighter because I wanted specialization. He then took the magic item I wanted because of that. Then the other character who was playing a fighter was a better fighter than me as a fighter at certain things. And I was like, man, like in that instance, it just wasn't fun. It didn't fit what I wanted. And the way things went in that campaign also were kind of frustrating. I don't think necessarily balance is important, but again, I come from playing Palladium books, and I would encourage you, Bill, to run some Palladium books. And try to factor in the lack of balance sometimes. Again, I'm okay with it. But there is a huge difference between having the characters we have in Rifts and how one of them might have... Again, remember, SDC and MDC is basically like hit points. Having one character that has like 800 of those bad boys also can deal a ton of damage. We're talking about, again, hundreds of damage in a round. And then having another character who's got about 30 of them and like can maybe do 40, well, maybe do 100 points of damage in a round. That's a big gap from a combat standpoint. And then you might have another character who's really good at skills, but like the balance of the game there is none. That game might make you appreciate balance a touch. Maybe. You'd have to play it for a bit, I think. But no, I agree. I don't care too much about balance. I think balance is good only from the standpoint that I think most people prefer it. And so if you're making a game, especially to sell, I think you need to sometimes factor in what the masses want. And having balance to a game, I think, makes it easier on a lot of those people to run. And hell, I think balance does make it easier for me as a DM for certain things. You know, I know roughly how difficult I want something to be. Like, balance has nothing to do with making it equal to the difficulty as players. Balance just means you know roughly how hard it should be for the players. So, for example, I know, a first level party can't defeat this dragon because of how the builds are, right? Whereas I know this 7th level party might be able to beat that dragon. That's not going to change if I have the dragon there or not, but it might change how some of the clues and stuff impact those players, right? And how NPCs interact with them based on what they know about the players and stuff. It just gives you a baseline, I guess. So in that sense, I think balance is good, but I don't necessarily follow balance. I don't like balance encounters with CR. I don't do that. But I do think, again, I know roughly if I'm looking at this CR monster, I know roughly what level party could take it, but I don't necessarily care if it can beat them or not. I hear you. That would be cool. Open to abuse, but if played in the right spirit, could be fun. Modular character creation. Yeah, but at the same time, modular character creation can be very time consuming because now you spend your time looking at more things, reading more things, rather than just going, all right, I pick this, and then that it would make things take longer in that sense. So that's the downside. Just like point buy over rolling can take longer. Roll stats as I hear you, but I would argue that balance is only important for certain players and groups. And if your group is good, if they are interested in more than just their actions, then you're good. And if they're not, the system won't matter. Just find new players. Most issues are group or player related, not system related. At least that's been my experience. Yes, from the end user experience, I agree with you. You and I think, have always agreed on that. Where, you know, we both think that a group is more important than a system, you know, and all of that. So, what do you mean, though, by if they're interested in more than just their actions, then you're good? I don't know what you mean by that. Do you mean like they're more interested in their role play? Shadow the Demon Lord solves the issue of balance between characters, allowing you to specialize or diversify as you see fit. How does it... what do you mean, John? How does it balance it? Are you talking about balance in the same context I think we are? Or do you just mean it lets you just make the type of character you want? Because like that's one of the things I liked about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. When you build a character in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you know, you could have a whole group of the exact same class, exact same race and background, but make them very different based on your choices within those. And I like that. Same thing with how Fantasy Age and Dragon Age and Modern Age, you create characters. You choose something, like say you choose your race or whatever, or your class. Within those, you have more choices. And that's actually how you differentiate your character. So, for example, in Dragon Age, you could both be an Orlesian, but have different things based on it because there's a table that you can roll on or choose one or two different. I think it's two different things, and so you can end up with two very different Orlesians. Maybe you're both the warrior class, but you've made your warriors completely different. They have different skills. They have different specialties. I think at like 3rd level you get an actual. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's some kind of specialty or focus or something like that. No prerequisites, no optimum builds that overshadow others. I'd have to see how that game works. So is it a game it sounds like a game that doesn't have a lot of balance then, if you don't have stuff like that. Because once you start layering things onto each other, I mean, you can end up with some pretty lopsided builds compared to other people in most games I've seen. Like if you don't have a prerequisite, you can combine different things usually. The only way to prevent that is to say things don't stack, right? But then sometimes making one selection might make another selection not even worthwhile for some people. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, well, I don't want to choose this just for this thing, you know? A Magician Wizard Abjurer is just as viable as a Magician Paladin Vanguard. What do you mean as viable? Like they're just as powerful? Or just as easy to make? That's interesting. I've never even heard of Shadow of the Demon Lord. What is that, an OSR game, or what kind of game is that? How do the mechanics work in that? So, I'm probably going to do another stream like this. Not tomorrow. Probably be back on Sunday. The next stream, this was meant to only be like a 20-minute stream, but I got really into it. The next stream I'm going to do is going to be called Fallout After Defeating the Big Bad Evil Guy. Basically, killing the big bad evil guy does not have to be the end of your campaign. It doesn't have to be something that sends you into a frenzy to try to figure out, like, oh crap, who's going to step up and be the next big bad evil guy. But I want to do a stream on that. So that will be my next one on Sunday. I've written down, let's see, how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 9 video ideas here. That'll be the second one, right? So tonight was what game systems am I interested in trying? And things like that. Hey, good night, Browning. I'll message you once I have a date for the Heroes Unlimited game. And Browning, I did send you a private message on Discord. I don't know if you saw it. Please reply and let me know if you have a character that you've made that you want to play or whatever, and we'll talk about it. Enter a world on the brink of annihilation, its lands torn asunder by war, plague, and ancient horrors. The buzzwords there sound interesting. Yeah. Shadow the Demon Lord is by Robert J. Schwab. What are the mechanics of it, though? Peter says, you would be disgusted with me and I should be expelled from the old school. In a Beckme game I'm playing in, not a single player in our party had a 10-foot pole, and it nearly got us killed. Yeah. So it's funny. So my world, I don't have a pitch, an elevator pitch like that. But I think that probably sounds like my world too. So my world, they're in the darkness ascending era of the world. Basically all like the evil is kind of coming back to the world. There have been a ton of wars. Wars between gods, wars between the current gods and the old gods. And ancient horrors are basically like great old ones that once ruled the world. So that's kind of my world in a nutshell, too. I just have a feeling my world is not quite as dark as yours, Bill. Already have. Okay, perfect, Browning. I'll check it later. Uses only D6 and D20. So is a D6 the D6 and a D20? Okay. So is it like a target number that you have to beat with the D20, and if you beat it, it's D6 damage? Is that kind of how it works? No 10-foot pole. If you don't have a 10-foot pole, are you even adventuring? Oh, I hate 10-foot poles. I am never the character that has a 10-foot pole. I'm the person that brings a lot of rope, might have ball bearings or caltrips. That's my thing. I definitely am the rope guy, usually. Grappling hook. That's kind of my thing. But I've never been the 10-foot pole guy. I'll just pray that I get an immovable rod or something. I'm also the character that's always like, shoot first, ask questions later. I just like to do that. And I like to push the pace usually. If I'm in a group that likes to talk too much or talk about strategize too much or any of that, I am definitely the one that's going to swing at the monsters first. That's just how I am. And I don't know if that's like a sign that I have like ADHD or something. Maybe it is. But I don't know. Note to self, Sloppy doesn't have a 10-foot pole. Add additional pit traps. So Sloppy also is not the first one going in anywhere. So add all the pit traps you want, Bill. I believe Draven's character has always been the first one in, and Paula's character had 10. Draven has 10-foot pole, and Paula has a 10-foot pole. And I mean, obviously Paula's not in that game anymore, but she had a 10-foot pole, and she was definitely, her character was built to be the first one in. D20 system, but D6 are used to add or subtract from rolls. Far better than advantage, disadvantage. Oh, okay, interesting. So, but you don't roll any other dice in the game? Or those are just the resolution dice? Any developments on that campaign going ahead? We are playing next Friday. Is it next Friday? I think it's next Friday. Yeah, Beck Me is next Friday. We have 3 new players joining us, I think. And then the following Friday on the 17th is Blue Rose. And I'm thinking... So yeah, I don't have... Actually, I do not have a Friday available for the Heroes Unlimited. I could do... For the Heroes Unlimited game, I could do like the Monday after Christmas, the 27th. Could do something like that. Could even do the Eve... Well, no, that's Pulp Cthulhu, so I can't do that. Could probably do the Saturday before. I don't know. I'll have to figure out what I want to do. Because I've had all those games scheduled for a while. The only dice required. Okay, so damage is only going to use D6s then. Yep, next Saturday, or next Friday, we will be playing Beck Me again. I have to fix the overlay for that. I think I'm just going to do it how I do my Pulp Cthulhu games, where I just have one big window, just because there's such high lethality. And rather than remaking the overlay every time we have different players or different characters, I just think that'll make it easier, and so we can just focus on playing and not screwing around with the graphics and stuff. Yeah, book it off. You can come back and join us. It'll be awesome. Sloppy Sherman. He's going to be A-okay. My goal with Sloppy is to see if I can get him to survive the whole thing. I really am trying to do that. I think I can do it. We'll see. But anyways, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. It's been a couple hours, but you know, I really enjoyed having you guys hang out with me. Definitely made me go longer than I expected. I was not planning on hanging out this late. But you know, when you're having fun, why not stick around, right? I am going to do another stream like this on Sunday. I enjoy doing these streams and talking about these topics. Like I said, Sunday we're going to be talking about, you know, the fallout or how you handle like the big bad evil guy being killed or captured or whatever. So I'm going to talk about that, throw out some different ideas, some of my thoughts. Definitely will weigh in, let you guys say your thing, maybe ask questions. Because I think it's fun to talk about stuff, just various topics, and you know, get your guys' feedback and your thoughts, and just having a fun discourse, you know, whether we agree or not. So thank you again, and we'll see you guys next time. This was Master of the Game. I am Juice. Game on.